Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Environment Sustainability Committee meeting, Wednesday, November 19th. Call the meeting to order. Any declarations, conflict of interest? Seeing none. Approval of agenda. Moved by your worship, second by Councillor Twill. Approval of minutes from October 28th, 2025. Moved by your worship, seconded by Councillor Twill. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes.
Yep.
Councillor, your worship.
Yep, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to the issue regarding the mini electric bus award. I know I've asked about what's left in the fund, and I think we were told, and I don't think it's reflected in the minutes unless I didn't see it. But I believe we were told that there's about 9 million left through, if we apply through the Canadian Public Transit Fund. But I believe our transit provider said there's a little over 2 million. So what is the number? Like if we have to,
Jessica?
you know, it's a question for you or Anna. Yep, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I don't have all the financial information in front of me right now, so I just want to be clear on the question, and then maybe I could respond after to the committee. So the question is, after we buy the mini electric buses, how much funding remains to spend on fleet?
Right.
The ISIP funding that's going towards the fleet is separate from the Canada Public Transit Fund.
No, I know that.
Okay.
Did we
So can
apply
you
to the-
repeat what the specific question is?
Yeah, did we apply to the Canadian Public Transit Fund?
Yes.
And we've received money, or
We have not received money
Oh,
yet.
that's, okay. And did we apply for 9 million? What did we apply for?
Basically, it's going to be around $285,000 per year for 5 years. It's not going towards fleet for the beginning. It will go towards other capital like technology. Anna, do you want to better explain that? She's been working on the paperwork for that.
Sure. The Canada Public Transit Fund, CPTF, funding begins next year. The amount that we've been allocated is based on a formula that applies to all municipalities across Canada, and it's based on population and ridership of the system. So we've been allocated $285,000 per year for the next 10 years, but that amount can be revised after 5 years. Should our ridership and population further increase, they'll do a recalculation for the last 5 years of those 10 years. I think that councillors have had many questions in the last few meetings about exactly the nature of funding and exact amounts, and it is difficult for staff to respond to those questions on the fly. But I think I'd be happy to write a written report so that it's summarised for councillors, so you've got full information and there's no confusion.
No, it's not about confusion, Mr. Chair. It's about, I'm getting different numbers, and what I'm trying to figure out is that we have an ISIP funding, which is Invest in Canada Infrastructure Program. We have the Canadian Public Transit Fund, which starts next year. And if you look at what's left in our transit budget for purchasing new buses, how much is it?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I can come back to you with exact information. It's multiple years. So we have funding for buses until 2030 through ISIP. So for another 4 years for sure.
Just want to know that amount.
So the ISIP amount.
That's why I keep asking the question. I'm getting a different response or different
Yeah,
information.
I think it's the
from
first time I've received the exact question that you're wanting, which is the
No, I've been
ISIP.
always asking,
Okay.
what's left in the pot?
What's left in
going
the
forward?
ISIP pot after we buy the minibuses?
Well, yeah,
can-
and
okay.
I know that when we looked in last year's budget for 25-26, we had about $8.8 million in the capital budget. But we're not buying those. Those were for the electric buses, so we're not purchasing those electric buses. So I just want to know what's
Yep.
up until, whether it's the Canadian Public Transit Fund, whether it's ISIP, whether it's an international fund that we're looking at. I just want to know what's going to be in there that will help us, assist us in making these capital purchases, because buses are, I think if if you look at the fuel combustible engines, you're looking about $800,000-900,000 for a new bus. For electric bus, it's 1.2 million, 1.3 million.
More
1.5? 1.5 million?
for
Okay.
full size, yeah.
Per bus. So I'd like to know where we're, just
Yep.
numbers. Don't need them right now.
Yeah, so we can, I think Anna had a good suggestion, which was we can bring a report forward to summarize the specific transit funding. So just to clarify, the $8 million plus you see in this year's budget is the planned spend specific to this year. So that is for buses that are being delivered and invoiced this year. So 2 electric buses are being delivered this year, so that budget is for 2 of the electric buses. We'll get 2 more electric buses in the next fiscal year, so that budget will show in the next budget being presented to you soon. So the 8 million is just specific to delivery, not on order.
Okay, that's, again, it's confusing when you
Yeah.
say that, Jessica, no fault of yours. If we have an expenditure, projected expenditure of 8.8 million
Correct.
for 25, 26, if we
Yeah.
don't spend that, right, then you have to will that $8.8 million be expended over
This year.
this year?
Yes, so we're buying diesel buses and electric buses.
For
So
diesel?
that is the planned spend. So we have a deposit, it's, again, it's a little bit in the weeds, but we have to pay a deposit this fiscal for future buses. We have to pay for the electric buses, we have to pay for delivery of diesel buses, we have to pay for some chargers. So we'll break it down for you so it makes sense and so I don't misinform you with wrong numbers.
No, it's not misinforming, I'm just trying to get it clarified
Yeah.
with numbers, because when you're dealing with different sources of funding, from the federal government through, I believe, Canadian Public Transit Fund is a federal fund.
Correct.
ISIP is a federal fund.
It's federal, provincial, municipal's 3-way split.
What, the Canadian
The
Public?
ISIP.
ISIP.
Yeah, so it's
And is the
40%
Canadian Public
federal,
Transit Fund, is that 3-way split?
just federal.
Just federal, okay. Just want to know where the money's coming.
Okay.
Thank you
We'll break
very
it down
much.
for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All good. Any other business arising? Yeah. Councillor Twill.
Excuse me. Just reading the news today, and the province, Prince Edward Island, is putting a pause on the electric buses. So what I'm looking for is some kind of a status as to when we purchase these electric buses, have we taken into consideration the same dilemma, the same challenges that the provincial government has taken into consideration some of their experiences with, the batteries and the longevity of batteries for the school buses? And are those issues very much similar to what we experience here in the city?
Councillor Twill, I don't see where that's in the minutes.
No, it's not in the minutes, but
That's
it's
what
it's
we're
under.
discussing right now, business arising from previous minutes of the last
I know,
meeting.
but we're talking electric buses, so I believe it's relevant. to,
We're talking about the business of the rising minutes. So bring that up under new business at the end. Am I wrong there? Yeah, because we're still discussing the minutes from the last previous meeting, and that's not
Okay.
in it. So we'll bring that up under new business at the end. Number 7.
All right.
All right, reports and discussions, urban forest update. Simon.
Presentation. See if technology cooperates for a second. If you go to slideshow, Amira, and start slideshow. There. Then, and let's see if this works. It does. Excellent. Thank you very much for indulging me with that. So, oh,
Sorry, completely forgot about that. So, is it working? Yeah. So every year for the last 3 years, I've been able to start this presentation with the same news. So sorry this is repetitive, but we've had another record year this year. Before I get too far into that, though, I just want to flag that the starting picture of this presentation is a planting we did last year. This was the 2024 Business Tree Challenge, and just shows you how quickly some of our restoration efforts get established and how good they look. The picture on the right was actually taken in the fall, so that was even after things are starting to deteriorate. So we had a record year. We planted essentially just over 5,000 trees and shrubs again, as well as some herbaceous ferns and flowers, supported by over $250,000 of external funding. We had a strong community involvement from the schools, both high school and elementary, as well as help from Holland College and UPI. We are progressing towards our restoration goals, but we are still somewhat behind our targets. So as you may remember from a long time ago, we had a Fiona restoration plan. That plan looked at how many trees we would need to plant to restore the forest following post-tropical storm Fiona within a 10-year window. We did a lot of math with our consultants, and we worked out exactly how many trees we would need to plant, and it was quite a significant number to restore that canopy. You'll see that I've very eloquently crossed out their numbers. We revised them a little bit because it didn't take into account plantings from private property, from private landowners and natural regeneration. So we gave ourselves a target of 8,000 trees a year, which was what would be needed to restore the urban forest within a 10-year window from Fiona. As you can see, we've been steadily increasing the number of trees that we've been planting, but we're still a significant ways off meeting that annual goal. So as a result, we are not going to be able to restore the forest within 10 years. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about that a little bit later on. So we planted We did both natural area restoration and street and park trees plantings this year as normal. We planted 91 large caliper trees, so these are the ones that we need the backhoe to dig the hole and move the tree and plant with this year on streets. We reduced, unfortunately, we weren't able to plant as many trees as we normally would in the streets because of some issues with getting the clearances that we needed. We have to be sure where we're going to dig. No one wants us to burst any pipes with those things. So we had to do a little bit more parks planning, but it's okay because we have plenty of space in the parks that desperately need trees as well.
Just a question on this, if
Yeah.
you don't mind. So I look at all the streets that are listed. So do I understand that these trees are planted on private property?
No, these trees are planted in the city right-of-way.
None of these trees are planted on private property?
Correct. None of the street trees were planted on private property. All of them were planted on in the city right-of-way.
Have residents requested trees to be planted on their property?
The residents requested trees to be planted outside their property, but in the city right-of-way. So as a resident can request that that a tree be planted on the edge of their property in the city right-of-way.
Okay, just a follow-up question. I see the streets that are here. I have mentioned streets in the past. And for example, the upper Prince Streets, the Walton Drives, and I was told that due to infrastructure challenges, it wouldn't be feasible to plant trees in certain neighborhoods.
That's correct.
If I understand that correctly.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there is no there is very little room on those streets in particular to plant in the right-of-way, and with the infrastructure where it's located, we are further hampered from being able to plant on, in most of those spots. On Waltham, I think Upper Prince is particular ones you mentioned previously. There's a sidewalk in the space that takes up a majority of the right-of-way on Waltham, I think is. Okay. So as I say, 20% of those trees were requested by residents. 150 stumps were removed, with approximately 500 remaining from Fiona. We did have very limited contractor usage this year for stump removal. We had some capacity limitations with Public Works due to vehicles and such. So resources were reallocated to help with watering, invasive species control, and site preparation.
Pete, just a question.
Yep. Oh.
Want to go back to the 150 stumps that we removed. Were these on the right-of-way, or were some of these trees on private property?
All of these trees would have been in either the right-of-way or in parks. None of them would have been on private property.
So when you mentioned resources were limited, what was that, money, or was that contractors?
So in order to complete the stumping operation, we have money allocated to use a contractor. So that work is completed by the contractor. The cleanup, so the restoration of the site for like the grass being replanted, is completed by QP staff as part of Public Works. So we come in with the contractor, do the grinding, and then Public Works, the staff follow up afterwards and do the restoration reinstatement work.
So with the 500 approximately remaining, are you looking to bring in more contractors for future years? 150 a year, it's going to be drug on.
Yes, as we do produce quite a few stumps every year as well at the same time, you're right, it will take a long time. We did have a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Public Works and did flag this issue, and they're looking at resource allocation for next year. Okay. And to see what they can do and what the potential solution might be.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, a majority of our trees were planted in parks, 5,473 of them to be precise. This is working on two of our key strategic goals from the Fiona Restoration Plan, where we're trying to bring parks up to a 30% coverage in all, 30% canopy coverage in all parks, and to restore our woodland areas. In order to do this, we need money. It's a primary resource to be able to achieve this. And this year we were very successful with receiving outside funding. So this gives us a breakdown of where we received money from. As you can see, a large percentage of our outside funds came from the FCM's GCCC program. We also received money from the Trans-Canada Trails Planting for Tomorrow program, Trees for Life, Tree Canada, TD, and the local Charlottetown Rotary Club as well. All of these programs really give us the opportunity to plant a lion's share of the trees that we need to plant to restore our canopy.
Question? Mr. Chair? Take the time to explain natural area restoration. And I want to zero in on Victoria Park.
Certainly. I will say that I do have a slide in about three or four slides' time specifically about Victoria Park, so I'll probably get to most of that then. Okay, that's fine. But we do a combination of both individual trees, so those are trees that that are planted in a park surrounded by grass, and then we do modular planting, which you'll see a lot of in a second, where we designate an area and we try to transform that from turf grass into more of a natural ecosystem, so a more productive ecosystem with trees, shrubs, ferns, and alike in it. So, and that is where we get a lot of our canopy from, those particular modules. Okay. All right. So, as you can see, the list of where we planted is long. This is a major part of the places where we planted our parks. In the top right-hand corner of the image, you can see an example of a module that's been planted in Windsor Park, and the picture below is Ellen's Creek. So, it gives you an idea of what these modules look like as we're planting them. So here's a good example of a before. This is the Ellens Creek area, West Royalty Community Centres down there in the bottom, Capital Honda just across the road. And then after our work, you can see the wood chips provide a nice little outline for the areas that we've restored in that space. So it's quite a big area there. Then we have Meadow Park. Meadow Park on the left is the before, and then on the right is our afterwards. As you can see, the way that we're trying to plant is creates natural trails and walking opportunities for people to walk and areas of interest. So this is Ellens Creek. This is Windsor Park before. And all these little dots represent individual plantings that we've conducted in the fall. This is the first year of the 2 years of planting in this park. We're moving to the northern section of it currently and into next year. So this is what it looks like in the process and how dramatic the changes look. So this is how we do it. It's quite the change. So Victoria Park, so this is getting back to your questions about that. Victoria Park was severely impacted by Fiona. Part of the reason why it was impacted so badly was a significant proportion of the trees were American beech. American beech is being impacted by 2 invasive species simultaneously, so a beech bark canker disease that weakens the trunk, and beech leaf mining weevil, which eats the leaves, basically, and depletes them in the early spring. Both of those invasive species are terminal, so combined they are very terminal. That created a condition that allowed the middle part of Victoria Park to be so severely impacted. On the left, you can see the before pictures of Fiona, and on the right, what we've done is the yellow area highlighted is the area where we have almost 100% canopy loss in those spaces. So that's where we lost all the trees. The green that you see in the image are mostly raspberries and invasive species like buckthorn and Norway maples, and some pioneering species like cherry trying to come up. Not the species that we'd be looking for in a mature forest. The blue areas represent areas where beech trees are the dominant species still, and obviously in severe decline. So those are trees that we would anticipate losing in the next 5 to 10 years. And the purple represents our restoration efforts this year, which were extraordinary, what we managed to do. I will point out that obviously we spend a lot of time in the park working on this, and the positive feedback we get from people who come up to us and doing this is phenomenal. We get strong support for doing this work. To give you an idea of the scale, we have planted this year 1,500 I can't see that with my eyes. 98 trees and shrubs in the space this year. Again, if you look at the picture in the top right-hand corner, it gives you an idea of the distribution of those trees. The reason why there's a lot of trees being planted in the top right-hand corner is that, again, we have a lot of beech trees in that upper section as well that are in severe decline. So we're trying to plant trees underneath to take the spot once those ones go. Bottom left is our buckthorn, our eternal enemy in Victoria Park, and its attempt to take over. And on the right is our Arbor Day picture. So our primary workforce for a lot of the work we've been doing has been children from local schools, particularly Colonel Grey, West Kent, Parkdale, and one other. Prince Street. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I should go back and let, let, Councillor Twill had a question, I believe, about Victoria Park.
Yeah, I do. Okay, so natural area restoration. Now, over the years and even prior to Fiona, residents have made known their concerns about, this whole program of natural restoration, trees that are down, laying on the ground, and some say that, well, they understand it, they think that maybe it's a little over the top in terms of, all that stock lying on the grounds, and they're concerned about that. I understand it, but they're concerned about that, and I wonder, have we gone too far with, the floor being, with all this, trees that are down and left there for that whole process? And what does that do in terms of, the summer months where there's concern about, if potential fire in Victoria Park and having the whole park being eviscerated by a fire? So those are comments that I hear quite often over the last number of years. Some folks think that, we should be cleaning up some of the trees and logs that are down as opposed to leaving them there. So, have we gone too far with it? Have we not gone far enough? What do you say to the residents that have those concerns? Because, when I was growing up, Victoria Park, that whole natural area restoration didn't exist.
Certainly, I'll try and be as concise as I can be with this, because as Jessica well knows, I can go on with this subject. Essentially, fallen trees. I'm sorry. I should start by saying I understand the residents' concern. It is we've seen news stories over the last few years about wildfire that obviously give cause for anxiety. In terms of downed wood is an essential part of nutrient cycling in the forest. So those trees that are on the ground will decay and basically provide the nutrients for the next round of trees growing. It's one of the biggest problems we have, and one of the reasons why we have decline in areas of the forest is because the soil in Victoria Park is very depleted and very, very compacted in some areas. Because of this very reason, we're saying there hasn't been downed wood that hasn't been able to decay. In terms of fire, what I would say is that this is something that is a little bit, if you go out and camp, you kind of experience this. Wood that's lying on the ground doesn't burn very well because it absorbs water. When I'm looking for salamanders to show the kids, where I go is I move logs because it is wet and damp under those logs, and that's where all the salamanders hang out. So there's a quote that I frequently use from an ecologist that talks about downed wood in forests and fire, and says that trying to burn down hardwood trees is like trying to burn wet asbestos. It's very, very hard to burn a downed hardwood tree in particular. So our downed trees are a key part of our ecology in that park. I understand that some of the piles that were created are a little bit visually jarring, perhaps in some areas for sure. And part of the reason why they are visually jarring is because the forest floor itself doesn't have a lot of undergrowth in those spaces. So really what you're seeing there is you're looking and seeing a pile of wood, but what you're really seeing is a lack of understory in the forest. You're not seeing the ferns and the shrubs that should be there. And the reason why the shrubs and ferns aren't there a lot of the time is because there hasn't been a nutrient cycle in place. And I'll try and stop the lecture there for a second, because I could go on. Hopefully that answered the question.
May I suggest, I don't know how you categorize it, some kind of an awareness, maybe working with communications and putting out some information to the community as to what the benefits are. And, you know, from an ecosystem, as you pointed out, a lot of residents probably understand it, probably a lot of residents don't understand it. And I think it's important to inform the community as to, you know, what's trying to be accomplished here, and what the challenges are. So they, like some residents think, well, we're just not doing our job cleaning up Victoria Park. A lot of them view it that way. And then, you know, to explain it like you did, I mean, I'd have to put some time and effort into it to be able to do it justice. So I think it'd be advantageous to get that information on the website, get that information out into the community.
Certainly. Yeah, yes, and we are trying to make some efforts. We have got some couple more signs in the park, and we are working on putting more signage up in the park as well for those things. Oh God, no, I've gone too far again. So this next slide is going to put in context a little bit of our canopy. And this is not to say, you know, that we shouldn't be developing houses or anything like that, but it's important to understand where our canopy is at and the greater context for our restoration efforts. So we did a very we made an estimate of the canopy loss this year by looking at satellite imagery and mapping the total area of some of the larger woodlots that are no longer present. So with that, we were able to estimate amount of canopy loss this year. You can see in the image on the right a lot of the area where some of this forest has gone. And as far as I know, everyone has applied for permits correctly. And this is not saying anyone's done anything go wrong. This is just giving a kind of assessment of where our canopy is. So we lost about 75,000 square meters of canopy, and we put back with our planting efforts a little bit over 8,000. So our canopy is actually declining rather than increasing at present, despite the efforts that we have. So before Fiona, we were about 20.9%. After Fiona, 17.6%, and now we're down to, we estimate, about 17.43. So it's not the way we want to be going, but that's where we are currently. To make sure we put that in context, because, you know, all these numbers, you know, they have to have a rationality behind them. If you think about New York, New York's a very urban area. Its canopy is 23.4%. So despite the fact I would say we are a rural city, our canopy is going down. I think we have a perception that there are more trees than there actually are in the city. So I want to make sure that council is aware of the fact that when we look at the satellite imagery and we count the area covered by trees, we are actually a lot lower than we might perceive it to be.
I think one of the factors behind why it's even lower, and without even referencing Fiona, was the Dutch elm disease. I think that helped contribute to, that depletion of the tree stock in our city. I wonder if you look at a city like London, Ontario, and some of the measures they put in place. They call it the Forest City for a reason. And it'd be nice to know what are some of the things that they've had in place over the last 25, 40 years compared to, what's happened here in Charlottetown. But I think the Dutch elm disease has been a contributing factor. A lot of big trees come down, and it wasn't Fiona. It was the Dutch elm disease.
It certainly was. Dutch elm disease did obviously impact the street tree inventory quite significantly. But I say that we have had canopy assessments done over time, and the drop in trees that we lost as a result of Dutch elm disease doesn't really show up in that because of the volume of trees we're talking about. In order to lose 3.3% of our trees, we lost 3.3% of our canopy cover, we lost 12,600 trees. So we did lose a lot of trees with the elms, and they were in critical locations. But compared to their bigger number, you have to lose a lot of trees to make a difference in the percentage points. See what I mean?
I do.
And that's not to say that it wasn't significant. It's just we're losing a lot more.
It's in the area that I'm familiar with. It's well documented. A lot of those trees come down.
Oh, it's a tragedy, absolute tragic loss, and that's what we're experiencing in Victoria Park with the beech trees right now. It's very similar.
Okay.
So just very quickly, the loss of that canopy has a very real effect on our city, well beyond the visual aesthetic of the city. The cooling effect is significant. The lower infiltration for stormwater rates and management, and generally the impact on the health of the city is significant with a decline in the canopy. And I just put some pictures on the right-hand side. There is tens of thousands of peer-reviewed articles talking about the benefits of trees in cities. This is a well-documented thing. So the loss of trees has an impact well beyond sort of just the visual of what we see. So I did put up some recommendations here. These are recommendations not for perhaps a specific item to be voted on per se, so much as a general directions for council. Councillors, obviously, you sit on other committees. You're at full council, so you will hear other departments reporting. So these are recommendations really for you to have in your minds when you're hearing other departments to talk, and as well when I'm asking for when we're doing budget season very shortly. So strengthening the bylaws and design standards is very important, because a big part of the reason why we're not able to plant on, for example, some of the streets that Councillor Twill mentioned is because of the location of utilities and those things. Balanced growth with canopy loss. So we need to make sure that if we're increasing the amount of development we're having, that we're finding more ways to plant and resourcing accordingly. Expanding the urban canopy, so that's more of what we need to do more of what we're currently doing, while also protecting what we've got, so protecting those natural areas. Investing in our urban forestry capacity is also very important, because we are a very small team. We're small but mighty, and prioritising those ecologically important areas, so particularly those highly productive areas such as wetlands and riparian areas for protection. And that is it. Thank you very much. Sorry for going on.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's go back to your recommendations.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Go back to
yeah,
your recommendations.
Sorry, Almira. Sorry, my haste at... Oh, there we go.
Recommendation 1, excuse me, strengthen bylaws, design standards, support zoning and development regulations that require tree planting during development, and ensure right-of-way infrastructure designed to accommodate street trees. That's something that I've been lobbying for, in the last couple of years. So by strengthening our bylaws, introducing these requirements, so that the developer knows up front that this is part of the agreement when it comes to subdivision agreements and standards and specifications. Will I take from this recommendation this will become part of the new zoning and development bylaw?
That is what we've been advocating for whenever we have a chance to talk about development and guidelines. As we're the Department of Advocating for trees, really, for those things. So we talk to our colleagues in planning and public works about those things, for sure.
So it will show up in the?
That's not an environment sustainability, those aren't environment sustainability areas. So we advocate for them when we're talking to our colleagues in planning and public works, but that would be up to those departments to incorporate those in those areas.
Mr. Chair. Simon, thank you for the presentation. Great presentation, covered a lot of the bases. Even hide and seek behind the trees, lots of that. But if I look at, can you just go back to the funding slide? The sources of funding? Yeah. So, total project expense, $430,000. Project funding support, 260. So our contribution is, that's not significant. That's all on you, going out and searching for that funding, which is very admirable. I appreciate that. I keep asking the $2 billion tree program, does that fall under Trees for Life, Tree Canada? Which one does it fall under?
So the way the 2 billion tree program worked primarily was that funding was given to other groups to then give out to the people that would plant the trees. So the top two projects, the FCM GCCC and the TCT Planting for Tomorrow program, were funds that used the federal 2 billion tree program.
And Simon, I've participated in a lot of your tree planting, and you do a great job in bringing in volunteers, new Canadians. I think you had a number of students from Holland College that were part of the J. Frank Macaulay tree planting and shrub planting. Then out at West Royal, you had volunteers from the Charlottetown Rotary Club, also who donated, I believe, $10,000 for the tree planting and the pollinator gardening. So all good programming. So when the CAO and our rep on the Canadian Capital Cities Organization, Councillor Beck, and the deputy and I were in Fredericton for the annual CCO meeting, Fredericton took the members of the Congress or the conference to their tree nursery in Fredericton. And last night, Councillor Beck and I know Councillor Tweel also were at the Fusion Gala Awards, and McPhail Woods were a recipient of an award for their work that they're doing in the community. And I said to Councillor Beck, maybe that's where we can team up for establishing a tree nursery so that we have access to the growth of native trees that would be part of their ecological forestry project, so we're both winners. Is that doable?
For you, Mr. Chair, it's very expensive. I've been involved in trying to set up a tree nursery before. Very staff intensive and a long lead in to get the results, and requires infrastructure to begin with. Would I love to have something like that? Absolutely. Is it more financially efficient for us to work with partners such as Arbor Nursery, McPhail's, and the Provincial Nursery? I would probably say so. They have established nurseries and all of the equipment set up, and we do work with those nurseries to bring in stock wherever we can.
So the tree nursery in Fredericton is actually reducing the number of trees that they're buying from Ontario because they have an inventory close at hand available to them. Okay, going to Stratford, Ontario, I was up there for the the Communities in Bloom annual conference. And in Stratford, Ontario, their policy, because one of the presentations was on trees and who's responsible, how do we continue to grow our canopy. So every tree removed in Stratford, Ontario, 7 trees are replaced. That's their ratio, 1 to 7. They also have a private property tree policy. So is that something that we can look at as a possible, if you go back again to your goals, I think, can you go back to that slide? Is that something that we can look at? Again, you're the I'm relying on you as the expert, which you are.
Would I love that? 100%. As you probably remember, I'm not from PI originally, and have lived in a few different places, all of which have had similar rules to what you're talking about. It's a very common situation for other places to have. Is it within our current capacity? I would say no. We would need a significant ramp up of capacity to be able to do that, and it would have to be worked into the zoning bylaws in particular, as well as the design standards for both construction and streets. So there would be multiple kind of layers to that need to be aligned to do that. That would be a phenomenal benefit for the future generations of Charlottetown, absolutely. And many of those places, London and Stratford, you're talking about, Guelph, Toronto, New York, all of these places, the generation now are benefiting from previous legislators putting these things in place, in the 70s, 80s, 90s.
Mr. Chair? Just again, thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Simon. Well done, and keep growing.
All right, no, thank you very much, Simon. Very informative. So, next up, active transportation plan. We asked Anna to go back for clarification on the maps. I had a look, and to me, they're much more simpler to understand. So thank you for that. Go ahead.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Chair. So this is a return of the report. The report is the same as presented at committee a few weeks ago, and we are requesting committee's recommendation to council to adopt the 2025 active transportation plan's vision, and to request that staff create recommendations through annual budgeting processes to support the implementation of this plan, and request us to provide annual progress reports so that we can keep ourselves accountable against this plan for the next 10 years. So in the package, the additional information is the new set of maps that Elmira has brought up on the screen for us here. So there's a series of maps here. You can see on the screen right now, this is a picture of the existing cycling facilities. Oh yeah, I can take that. So this is the existing cycling facilities in Charlottetown. You'll notice that it does not include the painted bike lanes on, for example, North River Road, University Avenue, St. Peter's Road, and a few others like cross streets on Belvedere. That is because those painted bike lanes that do currently exist in the city, they do not meet the facility selection thresholds for safety. So we would not build those facilities now under our current technical guidance, because basically they're immediately adjacent to cars that are traveling at a higher speed, and there's too high a volume of cars for it to be just a painted bike lane. They should be lifted, and will be lifted in the future plan to separated facilities. So this map is our existing facilities that do meet our technical guidance. The next slide here is basically, after 5 years, you can see those existing facilities in the flat color, plus additional highlights for what we would build in the next 5 years. The green are similar facilities to our existing trails or multi-use paved pathways with a high degree of separation and comfort. The blue, which you can see on Maple Avenue and Belvedere, are protected facilities. So this is where the existing asphalt roadway is it's quite wide, and there's sufficient space to create sort of a semi-separated bike pathway that's on the asphalt surface but has vertical separation, so curbing and flex posts. Orange are painted or buffered bike lanes. Purple are local street bikeways, which are slow-speed, calm streets at 30 or 40 kilometres per hour with very low car volumes of less than 2,000 per day. And the narrowest green lines are your recreational or natural trails, which tend to be only for pedestrians or in the Acadian Forest mountain biking. It should be noted that the lines on the map now are based on the traffic data now, and before any and it's the most recent traffic data that we have. So before the actual construction of any of these facilities, we would want to verify those counts and to do an updated count, because if it turns out that, for example, Maple Avenue now does not have 3,000 per day, but the volume has gone up to 5,000 per day, it might require a higher level of separation. So every time we go to build or construct a facility, as part of the detailed design work, we would want to reassess the speed and the traffic volumes to ensure that what's recommended in the plan at this point with the information we have today is still the correct information in, say, 4 or 5 years' time. The next slide basically shows, in the flat colors, that's what was constructed at the 5-year mark, and it shows in the highlighted colors what's constructed between the 5 and 10 years. And then the following slide after that shows what we would add in the sort of 5 or the 10 to 15 year range. And the slide after that is sort of the complete cycling network after 15 years of infrastructure work. Reflecting on my time living in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, this is a similar approach to what they took back in the 1980s. Amsterdam was a very car-centric city, and they began with a central network, and then they gradually expanded out over multiple decades to become the sort of cycling mecca that it is today. And it's really building it up over a step-by-step process that we change the culture and change the practices, and we enable all of those people who do want to cycle safely today, we enable them to actually make that choice and get to where they want to go because they have a connected network on which to do it. The following slides just remove the existing facilities, so if you want to see it more clearly, where we would construct in years 1 to 5, years 5 to 10, and years 10 to 15. That's it. So I'll open it up to questions, and then hopefully council can consider whether they wish, or committee can consider whether they wish to recommend the adoption of the plan to council.
Okay, could I ask first there, Mr. Chair? Well, his light's not on.
Your worship, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair? Okay. So, Anna, I have both reports open. Yours, the most simplified report, and the report itself. The report itself is 206 pages, but there's a lot of information that's not related specifically to some of the questions we're drilling down into. And the one I'm drilling down into is, if I look at the report back in October 28th, so we were looking at $125,000 from FCM. Okay, that's what we're applying for. I think that's what we were trying to get at the last meeting. So, again, we got a new procurement bylaw. So when we pass the budget allocations for all the departments, it's not coming back here. So I just want to make sure that for the budget document that is presented to us, it shows what are we going to be doing? What streets? Are they going to be designated bicycle lanes, or are they going to be ATPs? I'm a huge supporter of ATPs, active transportation pathways, because we saw during COVID that we opened that Victoria Park bike lane up to be an ATP. It is used all the time by multiple users, and I believe that's the way I like to see going forward. So I'm just going back to your simplified map. So a bikeway, okay, I'm just going to bring it up here. A bikeway is what does a bikeway, like I tried to do a search for it to get into.
A local street bikeway?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wanted to get a definition for it. Because the one I keep looking at, Anna, and I know that Jessica's heard me talk about it before, is Fitzroy Street. So that's a bikeway, correct? And a bikeway means it's just shared, or does it eventually come down to one-lane bikeway, one-lane vehicles? Because there's no definition for
Yeah,
it.
I really appreciate this question and particular attention to Fitzroy. There were a couple of elements of your question, so I just want to address I'll address capital budget and approval processes first, because I think it is really important for us all to understand that, and then I'll speak specifically about Fitzroy Street and local street bikeways. With the new procurement policy, if something is budgeted for, then there is approval to spend that money after we do a competitive RFP. However, for infrastructure design of streets, I think I need to clarify this, but I believe that we do have to come back to council with the final proposal if we are retrofitting a street, so that not only the budget is approved, but also the specific design and cost for that facility is approved. I would feel very uncomfortable doing a design with the community and just proceeding on the basis of the fact that you've approved budget for it. I would want to come back to council and make sure that there is support so that that decision is made by council and not by staff. And I think that's essential. That's part of the draft municipal design guidelines for retrofitting streets. And I would definitely want to take that approach. With the capital budget that is drafted and that will be presented to committee next week in regular committee meeting, we do include general budget for Fitzroy Street and for other local street bikeways as recommended in the AT plan that uses an estimated cost factor, because that's what we expect we would like to spend next year, but we haven't already done the detailed design to be able to tell you specifically where it will go and the type of facility. So that will come during the year, but at capital budget time, we'll be asking you to approve the envelope without necessarily approving the specific projects, and the project approval would come throughout the year.
So what does a local street bikeway mean? Does that mean
Yeah.
that we close down one side, or do we make
Yeah.
it melange with the traffic, or do we say, when there's no traffic, this is a bikeway? So
Yeah.
what does it mean?
So a local street bikeway, there is a definition in the, I'll read
full
the
report?
I'll read the definition.
That's all right.
From the full report.
Good. Okay.
I just have to grab the full definition so that it's right there. So there's a whole section on local street bikeway design elements.
What page is that in? I'm looking at the report. now.
The whole report it's page 69 of the PDF, page 53.
I got it right here,
Yep.
okay.
So it's stated that it's an emerging treatment in the Maritimes, but it is well-established practice in cities with high cycling ridership internationally, such as Amsterdam, for example, or Copenhagen. Halifax has been leading the use of local street bikeways. So it is a street that forces vehicles to drive slowly, and it diverts non-local traffic to create conditions where sharing lanes between active transportation users and vehicles is safe and is very unlikely to result in a collision that would have a major injury. And so it is comfortable and safe to cycle on. It involves 1,000 vehicles or less for operating speeds at 40 kilometres an hour or 30 kilometres an hour being the desired target. So it includes traffic calming measures like curb extensions, raised crossings, vertical centerline measures, so flex posts in the middle of the street, speed humps and speed tables, and the spacing of these is approximately every 50 metres. And traffic diversion measures means so modal filters. So a bike may be able to continue unimpeded down Fitzroy Street, for example, but at some intersections there may be a forced turn to divert a car to Euston Street rather than carrying on the whole way down Fitzroy Street. Don't take that as a definite. That would come as part of the design process, but it's designed so that people who need to access the street using a motor vehicle can do so, but people who are using the street as a through street to sort of rat run to a destination a long way away would be diverted back to main corridors like Euston Street or Grafton Street, which are designated as priority for cars. And so that's one way to reduce speeds and to reduce car traffic volumes. One of the important things to note is the relative cost of separated facilities compared to local street bikeways. The average cost per kilometre for a local street bikeway treatment is approximately $91,000 per kilometre, including design and contingency costs. The average cost for a multi-use path is approximately $735,000, so more than 7 times the cost per kilometre. And by choosing a local street bikeway approach on streets that have a low volume of cars, what we can do is we can get more kilometres of connected cycling facilities than if we only built separated facilities. We should build separated facilities when they are on streets like North River Road, University Avenue, St. Peter's, Belvedere, etc. But when we are creating routes through low-speed, low-traffic neighbourhoods, taking a local street bikeway approach dramatically reduces the cost to the city and means that our network can be more connected, and ultimately it's the connection of the network that will maximise uptake and maximise ridership.
So Anna, okay, there's a lot of information there, but I look here, it says local street bikeway design elements, section 3.7.1, traffic volumes, the number of vehicles used in the street, okay, that would be an obvious data search. Traffic operating speed, so those are the 2 critical elements. So have we done, well, maybe Ramona Doyle did it back when she looked at Fitzroy Street for as a designated, dedicated bike lane. Do we know if there are more than 1,000 vehicles per day on Fitzroy Street? Because that Fitzroy Street is used by a lot of East Royalders, people living in Sherwood, to get downtown, to get to work, to get to other places in the city. Have we done the data on that?
Yes.
And
So
what's the number?
The Fitzroy Street is, if we look at so this is the section, chapter 2 of the report. So this is page 33 of the AT Plan PDF.
Okay.
That shows the existing traffic conditions. So all of the traffic counts that Public Works has previously conducted, they shared it with us in a big spreadsheet at the start of creating the AT plan. And we actually went through the process of mapping that, which has never been done for the city before. So now we have it in a GIS format, which will be useful going forward. And Fitzroy Street is shown on that map as having
It's blue.
2,000 to 6,000 per day. So Fitzroy Street actually has and what we can do is we can choose to divert traffic off it if we want to reduce the volume. But when we go into the detailed design process, we would do an updated traffic count because I don't know how recent that traffic count data is. Fitzroy Street does have a specific comment on it in the Rapid Implementation Projects section, which is on page 114 of the PDF.
Okay.
And so they propose a rapid implementation cycling facility, which would use modular materials such as concrete blocks or flex posts that are not necessarily like excavation and hardscaping, but are modular materials to test the implementation of a bidirectional protected bike lane over, for example, 2 years. And if it is successful, it could be converted to a hardscaped bidirectional bike lane, or if there's we gather more data and there's community feedback, it could be converted to a local street bikeway in the long term. We also have to consider that Fitzroy has transit vehicles and heavy trucks reaching the milk plant on Fitzroy. So I've actually received in the last week, I've received some public comments from people who did participate in the process in 2018 and 2019, and they were saying, oh, on my block, I was really opposed to the idea of it being on the south side, and it should have been on the north side of the street. And I think that these are questions that we can revisit to make sure that we end up with a design for a bikeway that meets the needs of all users on the street. There's been quite a lot of analysis of the downtown network, and Fitzroy Street does keep coming up again and again as an ideal location connecting communities for a bikeway, but it also has cars, it also has trucks, transit, and local residents, and all of those needs need to be taken into account to to result in a successful design
Okay.
that's accepted by the community.
Just to clarify, I'm looking right here, page 33 of 206. It's got it at, is it 2,000 to 6,000, correct? Because that's what I see that green line as.
That's what I see that green
Yeah.
line as well.
So it's, for your bikeway definition back there, this is above the 1,000, so you're going into another category, as you were explaining. So again, I just want to make it clear, sat through these meetings that took place when Ramona was here as manager of environment sustainability, and the neighbors that come in. It's not just ADL, it's also, we have a parking garage. But why don't we find those routes that we can do something and get people moving on their bikes? Like, you know, Councillor Tweel keeps talking about Mount Everett Road. Mount Everett Road on the east side, there's a sidewalk there. Expand that to make it an ATP. Now I'm hearing that it's cheaper to build a dedicated bike lane than it is an ATP. You know, you can look at Toronto, you can look at Halifax. The backdraft that's coming from discussion on trying to integrate cycling into our community is meeting some opposition, not only from residents, but political figures. And I just want to say that I'm a cyclist. I'm an e-biker. As Laurie said, you just drive an old man's bike, but I'm an e-biker, and I enjoy my e-bike. But I want to say that I'm a big promoter of ATPs. I am. And I know we are, like, the chair, he's an e-biker. Councillor Tweel bikes. Councillor Beck is a biker. It's like, we're bikers. We want safe areas. But we keep going back to something that we tried, and we can try it again, but there's other low-hanging fruits out there that we can really, you know, get a lot of bang for our buck. So I just, you know, you go back and forth from the reports, and then you simplified report, the complicated report. I just get different answers and different responses that I don't know, where are we going? All I want to make sure is that, Mr. Chair, when we go through the budgetary process, we identify those streets, we identify those areas where we're looking at ATPs, dedicated bike lanes and so forth. And that way we can follow the money. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, Anna. Councillor Beck.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. My questions are on page 21 of the committee package for today. And under it, we have painted buffered bike lanes. I don't recall seeing buffered terminology. I might have missed it, but can you remind me of what that actually means? Because we're looking where I'm seeing it. Lower part of Nassau Street, it looks like Dunkirk Street. And then up on Oak Drive, leading over to the bypass around that roundabout, tight roundabout off Brackley Point Road.
Yeah.
Can you remind me or explain to me what do we mean by buffered bike lanes?
Yes. So a painted bike lane, you're all very familiar with. It's with a single white
Yeah.
line. A buffered bike lane is just where that white line might be wider, like 60 centimeters or 90 centimeters wide, just to provide that a little bit of additional space. And they're defined in section 3.4 of the full report.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
so I get what you mean. We currently have one of those, I think, on Nassau Street,
Yes.
which goes from basically the KFC right through to North River Road, and then but I don't see that referenced here as a painted buffered bike lane.
Yes, so that does exist, but it wouldn't meet the criteria, the safety selection criteria, because the traffic on Nassau would either be too fast or too high in volume for that to be the defined, for that to be the acceptable facility type. So on the next map for the cycling network after 10 years, you can actually see that we would be building a high separation facility on Nassau because that's what the traffic volume and speed requires on that street according to the technical guidance. That's not to say that we would remove the existing painted bike lane that's there. That would remain in place until we get the capacity to construct the higher separation facility. And the fact that that painted facility already exists is one of the reasons that Nassau is not a priority in the first 5 years, for example.
It just seems to me that it's one street, because we've often talked about our spines being good, but our east-west arteries not being good. And that just seemed to me as a area that could be maybe beefed up a little bit to make it not to the point of the high separation facility of the 10-year plan, but get something that could be a little bit more protected and give us that east-west. Because I could see that continuing down into lower Nassau Street. And eventually, if you look down at Edinburgh, which is not painted orange either, Edinburgh is basically a highway in the city, a good portion of Edinburgh Drive anyway. I know it narrows up around Brittany Drive and up around Westwood Crescent and that part. But again, trying to get people, if you're going down to Victoria Park, you know, and can something be led down? And I know it's in a speeding, again, can something be done around Charlotte Queen Elizabeth to beef up that kind of protection a little bit too? I do know that there's residents complain about people using that as a shortcut. Speeding is an issue. We currently have 2 speed humps on that road. So I'm just trying to think of how can we beef up a little bit more on our east-west part, and if that's something that could be considered, or if it's a possibility to be looked at. And I think it would increase our connectivity. If you look at that, even if it goes from Lower Edinburgh, if you continue that line right through the experimental farm, right through over to, I don't know what street that is, north of Allen Street? Hurley? No, it wouldn't be Hurley. Yeah, I'm Hurley, yeah, Hurley's. Thank you, Mitch. No, actually, I think it might be, what's south of Palmer's Lane? Confederation Street. And then Gower, and then Hurley. Yeah, so there's a natural east-west connection there that extends right even through over to Parkdale. You know, again, just looking at that. The other question I had, that would be just a thought, maybe if we could look at something like that, see if that's a possibility. The other part is when I'm looking at the greens, I see the whatever green that is for high separation. I see a lighter green for the recreational natural trails, but then along like North River Road and Beach Grove Road and Maypoint Road, that looks like a neon green.
Yes, so
Which green is that? Is that one of those two? Is it a high separation or recreational, or is it something different?
the highlighted green in that map shows what has been newly added in those 5 years, and the darker green shows what already exists, so long as what already exists does comply with our selection guidance. The full report, you know, that very complicated map that you all rightly agreed was difficult to interpret, it does show that there is an existing facility on Nassau. So I can appreciate that in this version of the map, it looks like there is a gap. That's just to indicate there is a painted bike lane there currently. It doesn't meet our facility selection guidance and we should beef it up, but we're not going to remove it in the short term.
What page you on there, Mr. Council?
I'm looking at page 21 on the committee package from today.
And, okay, thank you.
So you can see that in the committee package, like extending from Nassau, you have 2 newly built multi-use separated facilities, and that's the University Avenue Master Plan facility and the North River Road Master Plan facility that we are anticipating would be built in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And then you can see, and so that connects to the existing bike lane on Nassau Street, and then continuing east from there, you can see, across the the park and then connecting into Parkdale with a local street bikeway. So that is an east-west connection. for
Gotcha.
example.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense then. Okay. Thank you. So the same with the Maple Avenue going north off Belvedere. Is that part of is that going to be a protected facility? It's projected to be a protected facility? Because we've got, again, from that section from really the farmer's market to right down to the Vogue Optical or that new roundabout, again, we've got an extended bike lane part there too. Kind of like what we have on, not technically grade A, but
Yeah.
wider than most.
Yes. So you're correct. Nassau and Belvedere do have existing painted bike lanes, but they don't meet the criteria because they're on higher speed
Right.
roads. We see
Right.
actually, because Maple Avenue is such a wide road, it does encourage people to speed.
Right.
And so the proposal for those, for protected facilities, is we beef up the painted bike lanes with curbing and flex posts to create a sense of separation and protection without going all the way as to excavate and
Sure.
build a separated path.
Okay, and when you say flex post, you mean like kind of the one we saw on page 71 of the other report that had the kind of, an upright with slow on it and the cross bars going down,
Yes.
that sort of thing?
Yes, that photo was a centerline flex post,
Yes.
but these would be flex posts that are along the
Yes.
along the side of the bike lane,
Yes.
usually spaced every 20 meters or so. So yeah, we have used them at Victoria Park in the past.
Yeah, okay, all right. I agree with you, Anna, that, I think we, kind of what we can, if we get moving, you start to see some change will incrementally come. It's not going to take, it's going to take 15, 20, 25 years to fully get, I think, where we have to go, but we have to start with some things, and I think there's some, I like the plan. I think there's some good things, a lot of good work done here. So, looking forward to it.
Mr. Chair, can I follow up?
Sure. Oh.
So,
Unfortunately, I have to leave here shortly. I got a previous commitment I have to get to.
we have quorum. I'm just going back to your report on the study that's on our charlottetownhall.ca, page 33. I know you don't have it there. Again, there's one connection, Mr. Chair, that we have to keep in mind. We have a spine that runs right through the city of Charlottetown. It's called the Confederation Trail. The last time I looked, it's an ATP. It's an active transportation pathway used by bikers, walkers, moms and dads with baby carriages. It's a very active transportation pathway. So when we go to the north, we're looking for that east-west. We're still looking for that east-west connection. And the one I'm looking at is Mount Everett Road, University Avenue. That would connect onto Capitol Drive. And if Spencer Drive extension goes ahead, right, that's your northern connector. Because that'll connect you right to Brackley Point Road. If you look at, I think it has 2,000, 6,000 vehicles per day. So that's a connector. Belvedere Avenue is another connector from Beech Grove Road to North River Road. That's another east-west connection. And Kirkwood Drive. Kirkwood Drive is another one that has, again, lots of potential. So, if we concentrate, focus on those big lines, those arterials that connect east, west, north, south, we can achieve a lot. But again, I just feel that we're going back in history and we want to, maybe try it again with Fitzroy Street. I'm asking, focus on what's there that can be developed, and hopefully, we can move forward, Mr. Chair, on making this a more bike-friendly city, great place to live, work, play, and raise a family. And this is part of an active city. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Twill, you
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Councillor Twill.
Want to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to look at the plan a little more closely, trying to understand the mapping. I wouldn't say I'm totally there, but you know, it's certainly given me better context. Fitzroy Street, I know what you're proposing, and I understand the logic and the rationale behind it. It might be advantageous in the new year to maybe even have an open house regarding Fitzroy Street, something similar to what Ramona did. I felt that exercise was a good exercise, and in fact, I paid tribute to Ramona because that took away from, you know, traditionally having council meetings where council's sitting up front and the residents are there, and it's like a standoff, right? It's just, you walk in, you just know the bullets are gonna be flying. So, I think, you know, if you rent the Georgia room, you had an open house, try to explain the merits of what you're trying to accomplish in Fitzroy Street, it could go a long way. Just as a suggestion, nothing more, nothing less. Mount Edward Road, ATV proposed for the west side. The west side is extremely unsafe. In the new year, I'm going to be holding a community meeting about the merits of active transportation pathway on the west side, not the east side, the west side, with all the development that's taking place. I know that this department, your department, has collaborated with and consulted with Public Works, with Parks and Recreation. I'm sure there's been discussions with the Planning Department. I'm not sure. I believe that's true. Jessica, Anna, there were discussions with the Planning Department. Here's the challenge, and it's a real challenge, is when we have growth and development in the city, and we have all this development that takes place, the city is always in a handicapped position because the onus is on the city to approve these developments because there's an urgency. We keep hearing it locally, regionally, nationally. There's an urgency. Develop, develop, develop. But our infrastructure doesn't take place in terms of construction, doesn't take place at the same time. And it puts us in a very envious, compromising position. So I know the work that's been done here, a lot of work. I understand the rationale for the different modes of, you know, bike lanes versus active transportation, the separation. Yes, when you have high volumes of traffic, you have to have that separation. There's no question about it. You look at North River Road, University Avenue, what's being proposed. I see the same formula, the same logic and the same rationale for Mount Edward Road. And I'm going to keep pounding Mount Edward Road because that's what I have to do. I've heard from the residents in this chamber numerous times. I've heard from residents on the street, and that's my job. My job is to make sure that their recommendations do come to the table, and I'm going to see that till it becomes a reality. Something similar to what took place in Towers Road. You know, if you look at the ATV on Towers Road, we had a public meeting. Our CAO was present there. We had a good turnout, and you know, took a little time, but it just kept advocating, promoting, pounding away. If you ask the residents in that community how important that active transportation pathway, it's a no-brainer. It's a game changer. So, look, I appreciate the work that's been done thus far. I don't want to see, situations escalate that you would see, say, Toronto, where you got the premier coming in, overriding the municipality for whatever reasons, or maybe the pressure's there from the business community and the elimination of parking spots. I'm not really sure. I try to follow it the best way I can. But I'll reiterate, you want to begin with Fitzroy Street. Please have an information session with the folks on Fitzroy Street, so that they can have an opportunity to come and talk about that one project. They can focus and zero in on that one project, and then you can be able to talk about the attributes, right? The attributes in a very informal manner, a relaxed manner. It's so much better when you're having discussions in a relaxed manner, you know? So, but, you know, Mount Edward Road, I'm coming back to it, and I've discussed this with our CAO, I've discussed this with the manager of Public Works. Safety is critical. You know, we're gonna be looking at safety assessments, and I know you're gonna be having more discussions, correct me if I'm wrong, you're gonna be having more discussions in the new year. I think there's gonna be more public consultation, if I understand it correctly. I tried to read it as best way as I could. I do appreciate that, you know, putting the small package together. I will read the report in its entirety. I haven't yet, that's a true confession. But I appreciate the work that's been done here. I mean, look, it's a great starting point. I don't believe you take the whole report and just put it through the shredder. I'm not proposing that. I don't want to delete, I want to add. If that makes any sense. So, where we go from here, I'm not sure, but I got to tell you, near and dear to my heart, Mount Edward Road, West Side. West Side Story. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
work.
Yeah, if I may, through you, Chair, what I would love to do is to transition from the active transportation plan to active transportation plan implementation and starting to make projects happen. And so, you know, the discussion of which projects should happen in which year, that will happen through the budgeting process and project approvals. Fitzroy is one of the things that we are recommending for next year, but is not the only thing that we are recommending for next year on active transportation. We do want to get started on local street bikeways in other locations to start creating those east-west connections. Some of the lines on the map that you see here are already in progress with Public Works. So for example, University Avenue, North River Road master plans, they're in train. We won't see them happen next year, but we will see them happen in the next 5 years. And you mentioned as an east-west connection, Spencer Drive. There is just one section which is between University Avenue and North River Road, which is not currently designed, and that will be an early priority so that hopefully it can be built very shortly after Spencer Drive. So we are constantly collaborating with Public Works to, you know, find what are the opportunities to do each year, and ultimately, you know, whether something happens in year 1 or year 2. Ultimately, it's all done by year 2 and the network starts to tie together, and then we add and we add and we add. And so Mount Edward Road, you know, as we've previously mentioned, is currently slated for year 6 to 10, but as with the sidewalk plan, we can always reassess and pull things forward or backward by a year or 2. This paints a broad vision for evolution over the next 5, 10 plus years, but getting down to which projects are constructed in which year is, you know, a multi-departmental consultation that then becomes a council recommendation and council decision.
So, Mr. Chair, I know we're getting late, and I appreciate your patience and your understanding and your tolerance. And I'd like to ask a couple more questions. What was mentioned was that active transportation pathway, Mr. Chair, between North River Road and University Avenue, which is Capitol Drive. We've been asking for the last couple of years to do that in Public Works, and I don't know if it came to here, but that has to be done because that connects 2 major roadways going into the city. But I go back to the email that our deputy sent to Jessica. I think Jessica was October 9th about some questions she had regarding the process. I was trying to find, how will the plans propose funding increase from approximately 2.5 million to 3.9 million? Is that for the total budget for capital planning framework? Because I have here 2.8 for 25, 26. And are we proposing, are we looking at 3.9 million? Is that something that I missed? Could one of you? Yeah.
Yeah, so as part of creating the active transportation plan, we looked at historical annual investment in active transportation across 3 departments. So that's Public Works, Parks and Recreation, and Environment Sustainability. And it amounted to approximately $2.5 million annually has been invested in recent years. The proposed increase, should we implement this active transportation plan as is over the next 10 plus years, the average annual investment would be 3.9 million. That's not necessarily 3.9 million every year. Some years it might be 2 million, some years it might be 5 million because of the nature of capital projects and how they divide. We can't spend it at an exactly uniform rate. So the total amount spent on active transportation is divided across 3 departments. So within each of those departments, you'll see requests for projects that include active transportation. Often, in the case of Public Works, if they do put forward a budget for Spencer Drive, for example, it's hard to delineate exactly how much of that is for active transportation as opposed to the vehicle lanes, but that is a contribution to the total investment. So you're not necessarily going to see a budget line for $3.5 million annually in the environment sustainability capital budget. It'll be a little less than that because other departments are also contributing.
Yeah, no, I think what she's talking about is the budget for environment sustainability. But you mentioned Public Works, cost share some of these active transportation
Yeah,
parks,
when it's part of a larger road redesign, Public Works handles the addition of those active transportation facilities, and Parks and Recreation handles it when it directly connects in the Confederation Trail or when it connects through a city park like Victoria Park, or there are some minor parks or easements that Parks and Recreation manage, and they're really key connections between residential streets.
So for 25, 26, environment sustainability, active transportation infrastructure was 330,000. What are you projecting to raise the budget for 26, 27? For
Yes.
active transport. Now, let's forget about Public Works. That'll come up in Councillor Tweel because that'll come up to Councillor Tweel's standing committee and Parks and Recreation with Councillor Ramsey. So what are we projecting? Is it 330 or is it 1.3 million?
That will come to you in the Environment Sustainability Committee meeting next week. So I don't have it immediately to hand, but it's in the capital budget that's presented to this committee next Tuesday.
So if we're looking at this report and the simplified report, it's not going to be 330. It's going to be much more.
That's correct. Yeah, it was 330 this year because we were doing the planning as opposed to building infrastructure this year because that's what we had.
Okay.
That was what was approved last year, and it'll be a little less than 330 because we got less funding than anticipated.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, you've all received her email. I think all of us were copied on it from the deputy and then the response from Jessica. It's good to read that over before we start getting into the budget preparation. The other issue is the bike share. I know that's not part of this active transport. Well, it is. It is part of it. So we are moving forward on the Euston Street Irving Station project. There will be a bike share down there, correct? There will be e-bikes. Will there also be charging stations for, let's say, Councillor McKinnon or Philip Brown comes in just to charge my bike? Will that be available too? Is that something that you can answer now? Because I'd like to have it for the public record.
That's an interesting question because all bikes have different chargers.
Yeah, I know.
You'd have to
But
have quite a few.
But if you go with the e-bike share, it's the one type of recharger. What I'd like to know is, my bike, your bike, anybody else that comes in with a bike.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware, so the bike share program, the planning is underway and Anna's working hard on that. I am not aware of any plans to offer public-private, like, bike charging,
Okay.
but it's something we could take under consideration.
But the bike share program will be ready in 2026 to kick off.
Anna's
The-
working on a package right now to go for RFP, to get pricing from vendors to, there's capital and operating costs associated with it, so purchasing the bikes and then operating it for the city. So that will go out for public bids, and we hope to launch it next year.
Good, Mr. Chair, I'll be watching it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just a question you had raised there. You'd like to see the pathway between North River Road and
On Capitol
University Avenue,
Drive,
on Capitol Drive. Who owns, is that a provincial road or
that's our road.
but isn't that part of the
No,
TransCanada?
TransCanada starts, no, anything going through the city, like the West Royalty or the Capitol Drive going right up to the roundabout at Maypoint and Upton, that's all city. We took that over back in 2002 under CUSA,
Okay.
Comprehensive Urban Service Agreement.
Do we maintain it with snow removal and paving and everything?
We contracted out.
Contract.
Yeah.
Very good.
But I believe that there has to be a ATP between those 2 points.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Jessica, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. If you can allow me just a few quick comments. I just want to emphasize a few key things that Anna mentioned. So this is a high-level document. Every project will involve community consultation, consultation with council, budget recommendation. So this is, again, high-level, not detailed design. This was a snapshot in a moment of time. This might be fluid in ways if there's new developments pop up that we're not aware of. Public Works changes their priorities for road construction. So know that you will hear of these projects as they come along. You'll have the opportunity to provide input and comment, and the community will be engaged.
Thank you for that. We need a motion to move this on to council. Moved by your worship, seconded by Councillor Twill, so it's off. All right. Councillor Twill would like to raise an issue on electric buses under new business.
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. I read today in the local media about the provincial government putting a pause on the electric buses. I guess due to the fact about, pardon? School buses, yes. Durability, reliability, longevity. Do we have similar concerns here with the electric buses, or, with our service provider? Have any discussions taking place with our partner? I know that in the Maritimes, they've also put a pause on buses, transit for their residents. That's kind of been put on hold as well. I'm just wondering where we're at with that. Has there any been discussions with the provincial government or from a regional span perspective? Have we had any consultation with other cities in the Maritimes to see what they're experiencing? And have we built that into our strategy and our plan of action?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can add a few thoughts, and Anna can jump in if she has other ones. So there's a few things there. So I don't want to speak for the school board, but I did read the article, and part of it is those buses are expected to go longer kilometers, longer routes, and it's partly about the charging infrastructure. that's available for them to stay charged and to deliver the amount of kilometers that they want them to run. So our system is different because it'll be centralized in the city and have shorter routes to run. We do consult regularly with our municipal partners, and we're part of a national urban transit association. I just got back from a conference in Montreal, met lots of people doing lots of great work. Transit electrification is very different than the school board buses. Transit buses are very different than the school board buses, and there are lots of municipalities going full steam ahead with electrification. All the major cities, not all, a lot of the major cities are still full steam ahead. Montreal, Toronto, Halifax, Calgary. So the technology is there, it works, it's being delivered. I think our decision to pivot to test out smaller buses is a good one. We'll test it out and see how it goes, but I wouldn't read the article you read and assume that those concerns are the same as concerns we might have in Charlottetown with our transit buses.
No, I read the article and some of the challenging that they're facing. I did learn over the last year or so that some of the other cities in our region put a pause on purchasing electric buses. I stand to be corrected, but I do recall reading that. So I just wanted to bring that up, just so that, one, we're aware, two, are we making the same adjustments, and, are we looking at what they're experiencing, and are the issues the same, or are they dissimilar? Just wanted to make sure that we're at the forefront of those challenges.
Thank you, Councillor Twill.
Mr. Chair,
No,
could I just...
point's taken. Your worship has
Yeah,
a
so,
question.
Mr. Chair, they are the Lion buses that he's referring to. It's in receivership. They're based out of Saint Jerome, Quebec. So they're going to have some problems in addressing some of the maintenance needs. But I do recall asking our provider, T3, about the Saint Jerome plant and Lyon buses, and he said he prefers to go with I think the buses out of Winnipeg Flyers, are they? Or Prevost?
New Flyer.
New Flyer, because of their record on sustainability and providing maintenance and updates on their fleets or on their manufactured product. So I think the pause is on purchasing any more Lyon buses, but talking to our provider on these buses from Turkey, Karshan, these are top line. These are not, and I don't know if any of you were in the buses when they were here back during COVID, but there was yes, you were there. Councillor McKinnon, were you not in them? But there was a lot of excitement of the technology of this Turkish manufacturer. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we saw the buses when we were up in Montreal, and they are. No, but I sat behind the wheel. Jessica has a wonderful picture of me behind the wheel. They are great. Quite happy. I think we're all going to be very happy with them when they come. So, Anna, you had some follow-up questions?
Yeah,
Comments? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to, just to give a little bit of context, I think it is important for committee to understand like the nature of the global electric bus industry and how it appears in Canada. From what I can read of the situation in Canada and North America, we don't actually have a technical problem with the buses. It's more of a financial problem. And so the challenges with the Lyon electric school buses are, the company has gone into receivership, and therefore there isn't the ongoing maintenance support. And yes, there are challenges with rolling out level 3 chargers and all of that sort of stuff. School buses are a different type of vehicle entirely to transit buses. So in North America, in the transit bus manufacturing, there are two main players, New Flyer and Nova Bus, and they are both manufacturing hundreds of buses at this time. Halifax recently put 60 electric buses into commission in May. They're building a garage and they have plans to have 360 buses in Halifax. The first electric buses in Canada were in Alberta in 2015. So these are electric transit buses, and then there's a third type of bus, which is a coach, generally used for higher speed, longer distance on the highways, and that's where I think hydrogen is going to be the technology of choice. The reason that we chose, and that many other municipalities are choosing to pause procurement of full-size electric transit buses, is because of the high expense. The cost escalated really significantly in 2022 and 2023. It's not because of a lack of technical feasibility. It's because of the high expense and that funding wasn't available to cover it. Around the world right now, there's approximately 700,000 full-size electric buses, the majority of which are in Asia, where the cost of manufacturing is lower. We just don't have the economy of scale in North America to bring down the cost per unit for full-size electric buses, which is why we're going with the mini electric buses, which have a much lower cost that's more comparable to a mini diesel bus, whereas the difference in cost between a full-size diesel and a full-size electric is very significant. So I just want to make clear that a lot of the pause that we're seeing in North America, and we only have about 5,000 electric buses full-size in Canada, it's because of the economics and the finance within the bus manufacturing industry, not because of a lack of technical feasibility. It's just a lack of economy of scale so far.
In the Carson bus, the availability for wheelchairs is, they're very roomy, and it's an added feature. And as Anna said, transit buses are short distance. School buses go longer distance. Longer distance.
Yeah, I know,
longer
they hit
distances.
they hit
But
the
anyways,
road for the long,
you know,
long
as
route.
Anna said, you have to look at what type of buses you're talking about. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Lots of great discussion.
Yes, sir.
And comments. Thank you
Move
very
to
much.
adjourn.
And I think I heard you moved that a long time ago. So motion to adjourn. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.